Okay, so here we want to look at multiplying and dividing decimals by multiples of 10, 100, 1000, and so on. So we should already be comfortable multiplying and dividing by 10, 100, 1000, so on. And so what we're focusing on here are mainly just the multiples. So if we're not happy with 10s, 100s, 1000s, we should go back and have a look at that first. Okay, so what we're going to do is have a look at the first one here. So it asks us to do 13 multiplied by 20. Now, for each of these calculations that are there, we could set it out in this kind of standard chimney sum or upstairs, downstairs again. And when you went to school, what the primary teacher told you it was called, it doesn't really matter. We could set it out that way, or we could try and make it a little bit easier for ourselves. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it 13 multiplied by, and I'm going to split 20 up, and I'm going to make it into two lots of 10. Okay, so hopefully we're happy that 20 becomes 2 times 10 there. Only reason I'm doing this is because I can double something, I can multiply it by 2 without too much bother. Okay, so 2 lots of 13 is 26. And I've done this first bit. Okay, my 13 times 2, I still need to multiply it by 10. And so hopefully we do remember our multiplying by 10s, 100s, 1000s, etc. So remember our number columns, our hundreds, our tens, our units, our tenths, and so on. So when we want to multiply by 10, we're going to move these digits one place to the left. And so I get 2 and 6, and I need to put the 0 there to keep it in the right place. So my answer to that first one, 260. Okay, let's look at a similar example. The second one here, it almost looks the same, but it's 1.3 multiplied by 20. Well, I'm going to apply the same thing. I'm going to make it 1.3 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 10. Now, again, depending on who it is you speak to, they will tell you that you should always do the number bit first, or you should always multiply with the 10 bit first, right? I'm not going to insist that you have to do that. Do whatever feels easiest. I would tend to double the number first because I don't think that's too difficult, and then make it bigger. But again, take it on a question by question basis. See which one is easier, but it doesn't matter which way you do it. But I am going to have a look at doubling that one. Okay, so 1.3 and another 1.3 is going to give me 2.6. I'm going to multiply that by 10. So just coming back across my wee grid here, I've got 2.6. I need to move those things one column to the left, so I end up getting 26. And there's my decimal point, just keeping it in line there, 26. That's my final answer. Third example, okay, similar again. This one is 0.13 multiplied here now by 400. So again, the whole point in this being a multiple of 10 or 100 or 1000 is that it should have a few zeros at the end. We should be able to split that second number up. So I'm going to make it 0.13 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 100. Okay, and I'm going to do it the other way around this time, just to show you that you can do it. And so we are going to actually be working out in the order 0.13 multiplied by 100 multiplied by 4. So I'm just swapping the order I'm going to multiply these two things. Okay, and so what I've got then is 0.13, but now I'm multiplying it by 100, and so it doesn't just move one column to the left, they move 2 columns to the left. And so my 1 goes from being in the tenths column, that we can just about see, tenths column to the units column to the tens column. Okay, my 3 from the hundredths column moves tenths, moves to units. Okay, my decimal point, keeping it right. So far then, I've got 13, and I need to do 13 multiplied by 4. And again, that's an easy enough one, I think, to do. I think it's a little bit nicer to multiply 13 before than 0.13. It doesn't matter, right? It's entirely up to you. If you need to set it out like that, then you can do that. But 13 multiplied by 4 is 52. Okay, double it to 26, double it again, 52. Okay, so that is our answer to the first one. Number 4, let's have a look at that one. So we've got 1.03 multiplied by 5,000. So again, I'm going to make it 1.03 multiplied by 5 multiplied by 1000. And as you get better at these, you won't have to explicitly write these steps down. Okay, you'll be able just to take it in your head as it comes along. But just now, we're just trying to show you what's happening. So, looking at this kind of mess of a decimal, again, I'll try and do it the other way. So let's have a wee look. So I've got 1.03, and I want to multiply it by the 1000. And so this time, all my digits are going to move 3 columns to the left. So I'm going to have my 1 over my thousandths column, I'm going to have 0 hundreds, I'm going to have 3 tens, and we're going to have no units. Okay, and that's my things moved 3 columns, and so I've got 1030 multiplied by 5. Again, if at this point you need to, okay, the expectation is that you will just write it out and calculate it. Okay, so don't be afraid to do that if you have to, but if you crunch the numbers through, you should find that we get 5150 as our final answer there. Okay, so now we're going to look at dividing by the multiples. And so we've got 480 divided by 20. Okay, so again, whenever we're coming to divide, I don't like writing our divides like that. Okay, and we'll look in the next video in particular, but it becomes a lot easier to do if we can write them out as fractions. Okay, and what we're going to try and do here is we want to try and simplify the fraction. Okay, again, if you're not happy with simplifying fractions, make sure you check out the notes on that one. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide the top and the bottom here by 10. So that is going to leave me 48 on the top and 2 on the bottom. And so now I'm left with something that says 48 divided by 2. And so what is 48 divided by 2? That's just 24. Okay, and that is my answer to the 5th one. 6. I've got 12,000 divided by 300. So again, I'm going to write it just as a fraction this time. So I've got 12,000 divided by 300. What I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to divide top and bottom by 100. And so I end up getting 120 over 3. Now again, when we're doing this, okay, the expectation isn't always that you do it in your head. There are going to be some of these that you will need to set out, like our little divisions from before. Okay, but 120 divided by 3 should just give us 40 as our answer. Example 7, we've got 4.8 divided by 800. Okay, so we'll have a look at this one another way, okay, because I know that a lot of us are going to be kind of tuning out at this point. We're not happy with our fractions. So is there an alternative? There's always an alternative. So let's have a look, okay, and see how we feel about this one. And so what we can do is we can split this up into 2 parts just like we did before. Okay, now we need to be careful when we're doing this, and so this is why we don't like to teach you this one first. But we can do 4.8 divided by 8, then divided by 100. Okay, so we can do it in 2 steps. So when we split up our first one, we multiplied it, so if we're looking at 5,000 there, we multiplied it by 5 and then by 1,000. Well, here we're dividing, so we need to divide it by 8 and then divide it by 100. Okay, and so what we are going to think about is we're going to do a little divide. We want to see how many 8s go into 4.8. And so we're thinking back to when we did it before. So we carry my decimal, hit my 0, and I get 6. And so I end up here 0.6 divided by 100. And when I'm dividing, I move my digits to the right. And so I end up getting 0.006. So it moves 2 columns to the right. It's gone from the tenths to the hundredths to the thousandths. Okay, finally, let's look at number 8 then. Let's look at it. Let's see if we can do that one the same way. 3.06 divided by 3,000. And so again, what we're going to do is we're going to think about doing this one as 3.06 divided by 3 divided by 1,000. So I get 3 into 3.06. My decimal point goes up there. 3 goes into 3 one time, 3 goes into 0 no times, 3 goes into 6 twice. And so what I've got then is 1.02 divided by 1,000. And so again, all of my digits are going to move 3 columns to the right. And so I've got 1 in my units column, so it goes units, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So 0.10ths, hundredths, thousandths, and then all the digits come in the same order, 0, 2. So there is my answer. So when we are looking to do this, remember when we multiply, we're going to move the digits left, and we divide, we move them right. Remembering that the number of zeros on our multiple, so remember the things that we were looking at here, we were looking at the 10 or the 100 or the 1,000, of those bits for the multiple. Okay, the 10, 100, etc. That tells us how many places to move. And there we go.